Hello everybody, my name is Zen, and today is the 10th anniversary of Star Wars The Old Republic launching. That is right, it launched on December 20th, 2011, and this game has been around for 10 years and continues to be one of the most influential parts of my life ever. And I want to pay tribute to that, I want to talk about it, and I want to talk about how that has affected everything in my life, and I'm not even joking by that. And if you've been here a substantial amount of time on the channel, you probably have watched my stuff since Star Wars The Old Republic. And if you have recently joined, you may not even know that I did content on it, and you may not even know that that content continues to be a substantial amount of my monthly views. It's crazy how it continues to affect the channel and continues to help me grow. So let's take it all the way back to 2011 when I started the channel. I've been doing this consistently for 10 years. I have a perfect track record of uploading daily videos since then. And I want to talk about what that means and the content that I did for Star Wars and how that affected everything. So first and foremost, when the game came out, I got part of my OSWguild to join me to play Star Wars The Old Republic because I thought that it was way cooler. It was a subject matter that I was more interested in. I've always leaned more towards sci-fi than fantasy. It's just how my brain works. I like sci-fi a lot more. Put a pin in that. We'll talk about that later. But the thing is, I had just come off of World of Warcraft Cataclysm, raiding incredibly successfully on our server, becoming basically one of the best raid guilds on the server and absolutely demolishing a bunch of content. And then they put out Dragon Soul, which was the final raid of that expansion. And it quickly became apparent that the team had moved on to the next expansion. They were going to do Mists of Pandaria, and it felt like they were, being a bit lazy, and I didn't like that, and it felt like they were catering to a very specific kind of crowd at the time that I was not a part of and didn't like, and for me, Star Wars The Old Republic launching gave me an opportunity to start fresh in an MMO in a subject matter that I enjoyed a lot. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and it gave me an opportunity to play BioWare the MMO because that's exactly what this game is. In Star Wars The Old Republic, if you don't know, it is a giant Star Wars MMO set in the Old Republic, and within it you have imagine a normal BioWare RPG like Dragon Age, where you're playing as the Inquisitor or whatever, and you're playing through a big epic story. Well, Star Wars has that, except you're not just playing that one character. You can also go play like 7 other characters because for every main class, the bounty hunter, the Sith warrior, the Sith Inquisitor, the agent, the trooper, the Jedi, I don't remember, Jedi counselor, I don't remember all the names, the Jedi Knight, okay, that was another one. See, I still got it. And of course the Smuggler. You had all these classes, and they had all their own unique storylines leveling up through the content. And they had one storyline that kind of tied everything together, and you would repeat some of those quests, kind of like a main quest series through like a World of Warcraft zone. But everything else that was tying you to those zones was your class quests, and they were just awesome. And it was literally like playing a BioWare MMO, and you could play along with other people, you could play by yourself. It was kind of, the world is your oyster on that one. And if you wanted to just level up and play, through a Star Wars kind of MMO story type thing, a BioWare story, you could do that, reach max level, do some of the end game content. But with the moment you started getting bored, you're like, well, there's these 7 other classes I haven't touched, so I may as well go level up and play their storylines because they're unique and cool, and I stand by the Smuggler being one of the best stories in the game. I don't know why I love it so much, I just do. And the fact of the matter is, it was unique. It was really unique, and I think a lot of people didn't really give it a chance because the unfortunate thing for The Old Republic is that it came out at a time where MMOs were being anchored down by the past quite a bit. The combat for SWTOR was, in fact, very reminiscent of World of Warcraft, and not in great ways, because, you know, even World of Warcraft was very reminiscent of games that came before it, like EverQuest. But the thing is, these games slowly evolved over time. WoW made things a lot more accessible. Star Wars: The Old Republic made things accessible, but also made it very Star Wars. But it lacked a specific innovation that would really make it unique and cool. Whereas, you know, a few years later, you start having really cool games coming out like WildStar and Final Fantasy, and games that make a big impact on the MMO scene just by simply changing up gameplay a lot. Star Wars came out at a really awkward time where they didn't quite break free of that in order to innovate enough to draw a bunch of people in, but at the same time, they were bound to the design because that's what people were familiar with. So it was kind of an awkward time to launch the game back in 2011, but it was the time that they did launch it, and that's the game that we have today. But it has been improved over time, and I would say that a lot of the expansions have done good things to the game. Unfortunately for me, because like I created a whole beginner guide series, like going through the entire game of like, this is how you get good at the game. This is how you, if you want to raid at the high end, like this is what you do and everything. But when they go back and they change some of the systems, it invalidates some of those videos, unfortunately. But, you know, a lot of things like key binding and whatnot, or interface design, that stuff still stands. In fact, if you're really interested in creating a good interface for World of Warcraft or Star Wars or anything like that, a custom interface for yourself, I do suggest going and looking at my Shadowlands masterclass video, because I go into interface design and game design and how to create a efficient interface that is going to allow you to play to your maximum without distracting you. And unfortunately, those are lessons that I learned over time, right? I didn't have all that information back when I first started playing Star Wars. I had some of it. I was on to something when I made my original interface video for the beginner series, but you know, things change over time. Obviously, I'm going to grow. I'm going to get more knowledge, and I look back at that series fondly, and I look back at it almost embarrassed, because there's so many people that still watch it, and I'm like, there's a lot of bad information here now, because I would make a different series if I could. I'm not in the place to be able to do that, and me as a person, I've changed a lot. You know, this is not a game that I currently play. It's not a game that I'm coming back to anytime soon, just because my life is so much different than what it was when I was playing. I think the thing that influenced me the most was when I got the bright idea, and I do mean a bright idea. It was really smart because it was super unique at the time, and I was leading the charge on this one. And a lot of people take my ideas and now have done unique things with that, but I was the first to come up with this very unique role-playing series where I told a story as I played through one of the class storylines. So to break it all down, like you have 8 classes, and or I should say, when you play the game, you can connect all of your characters together through a legacy, which is like a family, and you can like set up a family tree and everything. And it's pretty cool that you can do that. Well, when that was enabled and you were able to do that in the game, it gave me the idea of, well, how are my characters connected? And this was actually one of the first times in my life, I would say, that I started thinking about the story behind all of my just random MMO characters, and like who they are and why they're here and how do they connect to each other if they're all part of a legacy. And the best part about starting to think like that is it started me on the route of, you know, how do you think like a role player? And I don't mean like in a nerdy way. I just mean in a way of telling a story where you're literally getting into the role of a character and figuring out who they are. And when I started doing that, and I decided I wanted to do a playthrough of every single class and tie them together in a cool, unique story, when I first initially set that up, it was really cool and unique, and I was the only one doing it. But that idea has carried with me and has continued into my content today. The content that I'm making today is because of what I did back then. Because of that idea and how I could take the storyline of a game that anybody can go download and play right now, because Star Wars: The Old Republic is completely free to play. They have like preferred access and whatnot, and they have a microtransaction store. But if you wanted to go play through all of the class stories, you can literally just go download the game and play it right now. And there's a lot of cool Star Wars stuff in there for you. But how does one as a content creator make that unique and make it watchable? Well, you kind of have to come up with something cool that nobody else is doing or that nobody else has thought of, which is creating your own story within those stories. So I did a playthrough of every class story minus the bounty hunter. I don't think I ever ended up even launching into that one. I wanted to, but the fact of the matter is the bounty hunter was my main character, so it was hard to justify playing through another bounty hunter story. But that was just like the weirdness at the time with that. And I was also starting to, at that point, once I got to the final class of it just being the bounty hunter, starting to kind of lose traction with the game. I wasn't in that same mindset anymore. I was changing as a person. I was growing. I was ready for new things. I was ready for new challenges and ready to branch out. And so I did. And from that series was birthed all of my RPG playthroughs since, from Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition to the next Dragon Age game. All of these games are connected by a thread, a story. And my character stories in those games are going to connect to each other, just like they basically do when you boot up the game and you load in your previous save from Dragon Age 2 to Dragon Age Inquisition. Like, there's things that you did in those games that affect your playthrough of the next game. And for us, we told stories of our characters as we were going through. We made specific decisions as we were going through those stories. And that is going to be a thread that binds all that. Just like it's going to be for Mass Effect, because right now, at this very moment, we're doing a playthrough of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So all 3 Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 games. And then we've also played through Andromeda. Not that that's really going to have much of an effect on the next game. I don't think. We'll see how that ends up panning out. But the fact of the matter is, like, what we're doing right now in Mass Effect, that story is going to continue on to the next Mass Effect game, and we're going to continue telling that story. And every decision that I make in these RPGs that I'm playing are based on what my character, from their own past and history and motivations and desires, what they would choose, what their options would be in those situations. And we play it from a character perspective. And that's fairly unique, because if you go and watch most YouTubers nowadays who are doing RPGs and whatnot, or streamers, they just are making the decisions that they would make if they were just normally playing the game. A lot of people stick to just playing like full-on Paragon stuff in Mass Effect because that's what they want to do, or they just make very erratic decisions that don't really fit whatever character that they're trying to build. But the thing is, when I did the Star Wars stuff, it put that seed in me of storytelling. And I already had the seeds of game design. And when you marry those two together, you get a situation where I started getting really into tabletop RPGs after playing The Old Republic. It's because of Star Wars that I got into playing D&D and getting into tabletop RPGs, and heck, even doing full game playthroughs of stuff like Divinity Original Sin 2, or most recently like Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk may be a shooter, but it's an RPG at its core, and your character's story really matters to the decisions that you make throughout that game. And I'm proud of all that content, and I'm proud of the fact that when we started doing Star Wars content and I made that series for the legacy content, I sparked something on the channel that has continued to live on since the game came out. But, that's what I mean by I have changed as a person. I have grown as a different person with different aspirations and different desires and goals for my life since I started playing back then. And I often get the question like, Zen, are you ever going to return to Star Wars? Are you ever going to put another series out for the Old Republic? And my honest answer has been, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't have any plans to. It's not something I plan to do anytime soon, even though there's a new expansion coming out this next year. Do I plan to go back to the game and make new content? Probably not. And it's not a decision based on money, I should say. It's not a decision based on is the game popular enough to get me the views to continue growing the channel. That really doesn't matter as far as that's concerned to me. But I will say that the people who often ask that question, and maybe you're one of them, the vast majority of them just want more Star Wars The Old Republic content. They very specifically just want that. And even though some of those people still watch other content on the channel, it's that one thing that they want back. It's that nostalgia factor for those old series that I do. Because if they had been paying attention, they would realize that that content that I was doing back then, I do 20 times better than I used to on all of my modern content, on Mass Effect, on Cyberpunk, on Divinity, on Baldur's Gate 3, you know, these epic RPGs that I play through. I put that same energy and investment and storytelling into the game, but I do it in a way that is 9 times better than I ever have in the last like 5 years compared to, 10 years ago when I first started doing this stuff. It's crazy. I've grown so much in this kind of content, and like I said, the people who ask for specifically Star Wars: The Old Republic content are looking for very specific things that I'm not doing anymore. And if they were interested in the way that I do content and the uniqueness of it, well then, then there's plenty of other stuff for them to go watch. And that's why those people don't usually ask those questions, is because they're already watching that stuff. They're getting that like necessity already fed. They don't have that content gap anymore. What I will say though, is that Star Wars content on the channel in general is never going to be done, because I love Star Wars so much. When it comes to new games coming out, well, let's talk about new old games. How about that? Like the Old Republic, the original Old Republic RPG is being remade, and I'm absolutely 100% going to do a playthrough of that. And, playing through KOTOR would be great. KOTOR 2, even better. And I think that stuff would be really, really cool, but I'm looking even more to the future. There's the new Quantic Dream game that got announced for the High Republic stuff. Like that seems really cool and is seeming to be shaping up pretty nicely, at least graphically. We have no idea what's going on with the story for it, but it looks cool. And yes, I would absolutely do a playthrough of that. If there's any other High Republic stuff, I'm super interested in that. If there's any, current era stuff, then I'm also super interested in that. Like, Star Wars games are always going to make a return to the channel in one form or another, just because I love that story so much. I love that world so much. But when it comes to other RPG playthroughs that are like what I used to do, they're a dime a dozen on the channel. Like, just go pick something. Go to my playlist section on my YouTube channel and you'll find something that you're interested in. They're all over the place. And I should also say that that old content inspired me and changed me so much and lit a flame in me that eventually grew into my desire for game design. I go from the storytelling aspect of that series to the reignition of my game design aspirations to where I am now, which is I'm creating my own tabletop RPG. It's a tabletop RPG set in a cyberpunk universe, not cyberpunk as in the game cyberpunk, but like cyberpunk as in, like steampunk, cyberpunk, that kind of stuff. And if you're interested in that, you can go check it out at syntheticneon.com. I'll make sure there's a link to it in the description and of course in the comments. But the thing is, that is a sci-fi tabletop RPG that I have very specific ideas for. This last year, I've been unable to work on it as much as I want to because, at that point, I'm an independent developer, and being an independent developer means that you don't always have time to work on it. But it is a really cool system that you can try for free and provide feedback on and go check out. But it's because of Star Wars: The Old Republic that I'm even working on that in the first place. Because again, you just got to take a couple steps there. Started in Star Wars: The Old Republic, did the Legacy series, got interested in role playing, got interested in D&D, was already having a passion for game design. You marry all that together. Now I'm making my own RPG series. And I think a lot of people would be interested in stuff like that. And not necessarily my specific RPG, but just getting into the role-playing aspect of games if they realize that it's really kind of fun. I think too many people shy away from that for random reasons, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, Dungeons & Dragons is a lot of fun to play. It's a lot of fun being a game master, and having a game set in my type of universe, a sci-fi universe that I am so just attached to, with a system that I think rewards players and isn't slow and feels really fun to play. It's just like, that's my dream right there. And if you want to take it even one step further, it's because of Star Wars: The Old Republic that I got into tabletop RPGs, which got me into miniature painting, which is a weird hobby to have, but man, do I love it. Some people really like painting Warhammer stuff. I haven't gotten into that part of it yet, but I really just like painting minis, just, you know, whether it be fantasy stuff or sci-fi stuff, it doesn't matter. It's just a lot of fun to me. In fact, I recently just today picked up a paint set for oils to kind of learn that tool, because oil paints are a little different than acrylic paints, but are still a pretty cool tool to use for mini painting. And I attribute all of that literally to Star Wars: The Old Republic. I wouldn't be doing that at all if it weren't for that game, which is a weird way to kind of tie that all together, but it's true. This game has changed everything about me, and that's why I want to pay tribute to its 10th anniversary. If you're interested in playing the game, it is, like I said earlier, completely free to play. On top of that, there's a couple things going on. I think for this next year, they're doing the anniversary event for an entire year, which is pretty cool. There's Cartel Market, which is like their microtransaction shop sales starting, including like 50% off all armor sets, which are for, you know, looks and whatnot. Character slots are also half off, so if you want to make a bunch of characters, that's an option. And then, the game since I last played added player housing and stuff like that, and all of the strongholds, which is what they're called, decorations are 50% off too, mounts as well. Like, there's a bunch of really cool stuff going on. So if you're interested in this game, absolutely 100% go play it. I think it is super cool. It is one of my favorite MMOs, continues to be so, even though I have no plans of returning to it. But it is, you know, as you've heard here, has been a really remarkable game in the aspect of my life. And I'm sure if I really wanted to get down to it, I think I could attribute getting married and having my baby to Star Wars: The Old Republic in some form or another. But that seems like a step too far, trying to piece that together. But with all of that being said, I want to hear about your Star Wars: The Old Republic stories. Have you played the game? Are you currently playing it? Do you plan on returning to it for the 10th anniversary or the new expansion that's coming back, adding Darth Malgus back and everything? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious about your stories with this game, about how it's changed you. Did you start watching my channel because of that game, or did you just find out that I, as of today, that I started covering this game long ago? I'm curious about all this stuff, so definitely let me know, and I'm going to be engaging in the comments on this one because it is a fascinating topic for me and one I could talk endlessly about. But with that being said, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for watching if you've been a longtime viewer, and definitely thank you to BioWare for creating this game that has changed my life in just insurmountable ways, and I can attribute so much to. It's been a fun ride, and definitely has been a game that I constantly want to play, just never have the time to invest into it again. And with all of that being said, we shall see you all next time.